Hello, everyone. We're going to get started at 3 o'clock. All righty. Stephen, Joe, you guys ready? Cool. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. First off, I would like to welcome you to the 2025-26 New Coordinator Training Webinar Series from the California Department of Education. My name is Paul Valencia, and I will be your producer for today's webinar. And today we're going to focus on preparing for testing. Before I hand it over to our knowledgeable presenters, let's go over a few housekeeping items. First up, all participants are muted. Therefore, in order to submit your questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom. We will not be using the chat feature at all for this webinar series. We only use the Q&A feature. All right. And second, a copy of today's resource guide was sent to you via email. If you didn't receive it or you need to access it again, I'm going to go ahead and place the link in the chat and send it to everyone. And there, you're going to click on the link and it'll take you to the folder where you can download the guide and make a copy into your own Google Drive. There is no edit access from the link, so you do have to save it, okay? Also, I did add a PowerPoint for attendees as well. And lastly, we are recording this presentation, and there will be an archive of it, and it will be available to view on the upcoming and on-demand trainings webpage on the CAASPP and ELPAC website. And maybe give us about a week or so because we have to make it accessible. All righty, that's it. And with that, I'd like to introduce today's expert panelists. We're very fortunate to have with us today Stephen Bartlett from Los Angeles County Office of Education and Joe Valero from Fresno County Superintendent of Schools.
All right, thank you, Paul. Can you guys hear me okay? I see a thumbs up. Good, that means you can hear me. All right, so today our agenda aligns with the success criteria for this webinar. So let's take a look at the things we will be able to do at the end of each section. So today you will be able to understand the test operations management system. You guys probably always hear it referred to as TOMS. We're also going to dive deeper into scheduled testing. We're also going to develop a training plan and then get answers to all of your questions. We also want to take a minute to talk about some valuable resources for the 2025-26 school year. The following pieces are included in the new coordinator training as asynchronous or on-demand pre-work. The pre-work is optional and is meant for those who need additional information. Pre-work includes 2 asynchronous videos included with the new coordinator training video playlist. The first video, Resources, covers agencies, websites, and manuals, flyers, and other deliverables to support coordinators. The coordinator role video covers LEA coordinator as well as site level and test administrator levels. There's also additional pre-work from past training videos. There's Assessment 101 videos, which give the who, what, when, why, and how of each assessment, and the Introduction to California Educator Reporting System, or SERS trainings, which took place in summer and fall. Those links are inside of your resource guide. The rest of the new coordinator training program is a series of monthly webinars designed to give just-in-time information. These 11 webinars will be spread across the year. The full list of sessions is in the resource guide, but let's review what is coming up. So today's topic is part of preparing for testing. This is part one. Think about like the Rocky series, right? This is like Rocky 1. December, sorry, I'm laughing at my own joke. December. In December, we're going to continue our topic of preparing for testing, and that's going to be part 2 of it. And then in January, we will talk about what support during testing looks like. So right now, once again, this is the hot topic time of year. We're all in the middle of it, just getting things ready to go in terms of preparing for testing. Before we jump a little deeper into today's topic, we want to remind everyone about a few excellent resources for coordinators. Links to these resources are in your resource guide. The first are the coordinator checklists. There is one checklist for each program for LEA coordinators, as well as checklists for other roles. What do we mean by that? Remember, you have an LEA coordinator checklist for CAASPP, what it looks like for LEA coordinators, and then there's an LEA coordinator checklist for ELPAC as well. Each checklist includes an extensive list of the tasks and activities that are part of your role. The tasks are listed by month where they are most likely to occur, but some tasks may occur in other months depending on your local schedules and plans. But in all honesty, for the most part, we're usually tackling these all at a pretty similar time of year as coordinators. They're created in Microsoft Word where you can customize them to better meet your needs at your LEA. We know some coordinators where they take them and then they start mashing them together. There was one coordinator in our area where she took the LEA CAASPP coordinator checklist and she took the LEA ELPAC coordinator checklist. She actually wears both hats, turned them into one document. So, it's whatever works for you. The second is the coordinator how-to hub. This will be a page on the CAASPP and ELPAC website that collects all existing how-to resources and organizes them by time and by topic. If you're ever stuck on how to do something, this will be a great place to start. No better way than to actually just watch a video on it. Let's spend some time just to understand TOMS, or the Test Operations Management System, a little bit deeper. In this section, we will be reviewing the uploading process, reporting resources in TOMS, and how to navigate within TOMS. TOMS is an integral part of testing. It's really the hub if you really think about it. It receives updated student data from CalPads daily. So whatever you see inside of TOMS, if I'm logging in right now, if I were to log in, this is a direct reflection of what was in CalPads the day before. The Test Operations Management System, or remember TOMS, is run by ETS and is the system that opens the door to many other systems and supports for CAASPP and ELPAC testing. Within TOMS, you can assign users, set up the CAASPP test window for your LEA, enter accessibility resources, check demographic information for students, check test assignments. You can check or add parent exemptions, access secure materials, reports, and more. TOMS provides information to 3 other systems: TDS, or the Test Delivery System, TIDE, or Test Information Distribution Engine, and CERS. We also, you'll hear it referred to as the California Educator Reporting System. So let's start off first by talking about assigning roles and adding users into TOMS. All right. While much of the information in TOMS comes directly from CalPads, some information specific to your LEA will need to be uploaded annually by you or someone in your LEA. This includes the users in your LEA. What do we mean by users? We mean teachers, coaches, principals, vice principals, you name it. That's what we're talking about by users in your LEA. You may already have some users in TOMS and TOMS for ELPAC testing already, but you'll now need to assign users the appropriate CAASPP role as well if you haven't done so yet. This includes assigning Tom's roles to your site coordinators or your test administrator and test examiners. Be sure to assign the appropriate CAASPP user role that correlates with their specific duties. Refer to the Tom's user guide for details about user roles and responsibilities. If you haven't had a chance to go over and see that inside of the Tom's user guide, it's really helpful. It's really beneficial. It'll tell you what each role can actually do within the system. To add or manage users, you can either use the batch file upload process, or you can update them manually inside of Tom's. There are templates to use for the batch upload process on the website, and there are videos available that clearly demonstrate both processes. And honestly, in all honesty, it's whatever works best for you to go over and get your users in your system. When preparing to add a user, make sure to have available the user's first and last name, their email address, phone number, the CDS code, and the role type. It is your choice as to which process you want to use, but having this information will, it'll make the process a little quicker. The only role that does not need to be added to Tom's is that of the superintendent. This role is automatically assigned to the individual listed as the #1 administrator in the California School Directory. Something to remember is that the primary LEA coordinator can also assign additional LEA coordinators if needed. That was a brand new update that we really appreciate over here. So what do we mean by that? Remember, the superintendent will designate an LEA coordinator, the primary LEA coordinator, and then once that's established, if you need to go over and add in another LEA coordinator, in the past, I would have to meet with my superintendent, and then they would go over and add in more LEA coordinators. With the really cool update that happened a few years back, I'm the primary LEA coordinator. I can add other LEA coordinators myself. I don't need to go over and set a meeting with my superintendent. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about who might need to be added and what role they need. Also check out the newly created Coordinator How-To Hub. On the How-To Hub, you'll find vignettes from coordinators like you sharing short videos on, hey, how do we create users? What are the considerations we're taking in as we're going over and adding? Maybe we're using the batch upload process. Maybe we're a really big organization. Yep, I'm not going to add them one by one. Or maybe it's one of these, you know what? I'm a smaller LEA, you know what? I can do that all by myself. I don't want to deal with using a batch upload. I'm just going to manually add them one by one in. It's once again, whatever works best for you. And you'll hear a lot in these how-to hubs. The links to the resources can be found in your resource guide. And once again, they're extremely helpful. So we really encourage to get those checked out. And so I'm just going to take a step back really quickly and talk through what that looks like in my organization when we're talking about assigning roles. And so I like to go over in reports, and we'll actually show this a little bit later on. In Tom's, you can actually download all of your users from last year, all of the test administrators, test examiners, they download in a nice, neat spreadsheet. And so I download that, I take the information, I put it into Google, and then on that Google Sheet, I share that. I break it up by our different sites, and then I share it with all of our site coordinators. And I just simply ask them, hey, please delete out anybody who is no longer in our system this year, because that spreadsheet is really who was in the system last year. And so they delete out anybody who's no longer there. And then I'll ask them as well, okay, now, once you've deleted out who's no longer there, please add in the first name, last name, and email address, and I'll take care of the rest of your new teachers that are going to need access to Tom's. And so they'll add it into Google, and then they'll email me and they'll say, hey, Joe, we're finished. We've just gone over and we've deleted out all the people that are no longer here in our organization that do not need a Tom's role. And we've added in the names and email addresses of the new teachers. You're good to go over and upload it. And so I'll take that, and then I'll just paste it into the template and then upload the template, and boom, I've gotten in most of my teachers. It doesn't mean I have all of my teachers in though. After that initial upload, then it's up to either the site coordinator, or if I'm made aware of it, then we will just manually add in anybody new that needs to be added in throughout the rest of the time. But I just want to make sure that I get most of the people uploaded and in initially. That way I'm not having to do the one by one, or my site coordinators are not having to do it one by one either. So, it doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. It doesn't mean it's the way to do it. This is just simply a way to do it. And so that's something I've done in this organization. I've done it for a few years, but I'm sure it looks different in other places. And once again, that how-to hub, you'll hear different ways. You'll hear different ways that other people do it. Once again, it's whatever works best locally for you.
That's a great tip, Joe. I think yeah, download and using those to modify for the next year are probably one of the best tips that I can think of using. I always know those those uploads require CDS codes. I can never remember my CDS codes, so I find them in the California School Directory or in Tom's. You can click the organizations tab, then under the view and edit, do a search on a blank form, and that'll give you all your CDS codes. You can fill them in for your different schools. Um, and I know that after interim assessment only came online, assigning those TATE roles, tested administrator examiner roles, became a and at the beginning of the year became not the best idea, and so limiting that role to begin with uh, to everyone except for those who are actually administering maybe a California alternate assessment for science or ELPACs during the course of the year was a way to prevent accidental administration when those windows clicked on.
Oh, I love that. That's a great idea, right? Exactly, because you know what? Once our windows open up, especially for summative assessments at the end of the year, and if we don't establish that admin window inside of Tom's, and we get just a super wide, hey, it opens in somewhere in March, it's available for teachers to administer. And so if they open up a summative assessment and they administer it, there you go. That's kind of the point of no return. So I love that. One thing that can go over and prevent an accidental administration of a summative assessment is use the IA role only, or interim assessment only. I love that. That's a great tidbit right there, Stephen. All right, let's talk about test assignments now. Once again, these all live inside of Tom's. You might be thinking, listen, I thought tests were automatically assigned. Well, the testing system will automatically assign the following tests: general education tests for students in 3rd through 8th grade, and 11th for English language arts and mathematics. So that general summative assessment, it's automatically assigned. It's all based on that grade level. The science test is automatically assigned for grades 5 and 8. And the science test for grade 12 students who have not yet taken a science test. If they haven't taken it yet, it's automatically going to be assigned for them. The English language proficiency assessments for California, or ELPAC, based on the student's English learner designation in CalPADS. In other words, if they are an English learner in CalPADS, they're automatically assigned to take the ELPAC. Now, why are we talking about that? Well, what if you reclassified a student and now they are RFEP, but you updated it inside of your local student information system, but that was never pushed over to CalPADS. So your local student information system says, hey, they're, a reclassified fluent English proficient, but CalPADS is still saying, hey, they're an English learner. They are still automatically eligible to take the ELPAC until CalPADS is updated. So it's an automatic thing if they're an English learner. So who are the students then that need to be assigned a test? Well, in your LEA, students will need to be assigned a test in TOMS if they will take the CA for science in grade 10 or 11. So in other words, if they're taking the CAST or science test, 10th grade or 11th grade, you need to manually assign them, or do it in a batch upload. If they're going to test remotely, if they're going to take the California Spanish Assessment, or CSA, if they're going to take the alternate assessments, the CAAs, or if they're going to take the alternate ELPAC, we need to assign the test to the students. It is not automatic like Smarter Balanced English Language Arts or the science test in 5th or 8th grade or the ELPAC for English learners. Those tests that we were just saying right now, once again, CAST in grade 10 or 11, if they're testing remotely, CSA, alternate assessments, or alternate ELPAC, they need to be assigned inside of TOMS. So please note, LEAs may use the alternate assessment decision-making tool to help identify students for the alternate assessments. For students assigned to alternate assessments, the assignment must be stated in their must be stated. Let me say that again. For students assigned to alternate assessments, the assignment must be stated in their IEP. Once a student is assigned to an alternate assessment, all future assessments for that student will also be alternate assessments. For ELPAC, ensure that the students with an English learner designation are correctly identified in CalPADS so that their test assignments appear accurately in TOMS. Once again, making sure that if they are reclassified fluent English proficient inside of your student information system, it is also reflected inside of CalPADS as well. So we're talking about adding test assignments. What does that process look like inside of TOMS? Well, there's 2 ways to add test assignments. Students can be assigned tests one at a time or in batches using the template. The process is similar to adding users inside of TOMS. Please note that test assignments should be configured at least 48 hours prior to testing to be reflected in the testing system. Directions for these processes can be found in the TOMS user guide, on the Coordinator How-To Hub, and under TOMS resources. These resources are available on the CAASPP and ELPAC website, and also a link has been provided in your resource guide. And once again, it's going to look very different when we're talking about adding test assignments to students. So, and it's actually really funny for me too, because we have a charter, and we also have our LEA as well, where we have 3 different school sites in this LEA. For my charter, we test our science test in high school in 11th grade. So I'm not going to add this one by one for all of the students. I actually need to do this in a batch upload. So I go over, and this is honestly the way that I kind of work around everything. I'm not good with our student information system queries. I'm terrible with it. But there is a report inside of TOMS, and if we have time, I'll do a live demo to show you how to get it. But there's a report. It's called an LEA Student Demographic Report. And when you download that student demographic report, it will give you your SSIDs for all of your students. It's going to give you grade levels. What Stephen was talking about earlier, if you don't know what the CDS code is, it's going to give you the CDS code also for the schools, for the students, excuse me. It's going to give you everything. And so I just simply download that report. Once again, it's the student demographic report. I download it from TOMS, Lives in Reports, and I just use filters and I say, hey, give me my 11th grade students in the school. I steal the SSIDs, paste them into the upload template, upload it, and there we go. I have my science signed for my 11th graders. For my other schools, we test 12th grade. And so with that one there, I just simply use the test assignment report, who's been assigned what test, and then I filter for 12th grade just so we could see what students are actually assigned for 12th grade testing that have not taken a test in other organizations. It's a local decision, however that looks. After a while, once I do that big batch upload, I'm not going to do another big batch upload again. I'm just simply going to go in. Let's say I get a new student that came into my organization, or let's say that I missed a student. I'm not going to do any batch upload. I'm just simply going to go one by one. I'll go into TOMS and I'll update it for the individual user. So that's the way we do it over here. I don't know how you guys do it over, or what you've seen down there, Stephen. Anything you guys got down there?
Yeah, I thought I'd talk a little bit about some glitches that you might hit. I know some test assignments will be sensitive to the data in CalPADS and TOMS. For example, a student must have an IEP
Mhm.
in order to be assigned an alternate assessment. But student must not just have an IEP, but that IEP must have been reported to CalPADS. And so you can see whether or not that's there if you're hitting a roadblock or anytime I had a technical roadblock, I'd reach out to a success agent. But you can find the test assignments tab, and under that, you can see what students currently registered for, as well as demo information from CalPADS that drives that, like CalPADS special education for testing,
Mhm.
504 plans if you're hitting roadblocks with accommodations and designated supports, or I guess you wouldn't get a designated support roadblock. But yeah, some of those technical issues can be quite frustrating if you don't know the way to what's driving
Mhm.
them.
That's a great point. Making sure that, yep, they have that CalPATS for special education. Yeah. Let's discuss designated supports and accommodations, referred to as test settings and TOMS. The California Assessment Accessibility Resource Matrix on the CAASPP and ELPAC website is a great resource and will help you better understand designated supports and accommodations. Also, please keep in mind the accessibility resources in the accessibility matrix are available for the listed approved assessments and do not change the construct of what is being assessed. Students who receive these accessibility resources will receive a valid score. We get that question a lot. Oh my gosh, if I apply an accommodation, the scores are not going to be valid. They will still be valid if they're on the accessibility matrix. So please just keep that in mind. Designated supports are available to a student without an individualized education program or IEP or Section 504 plan when determined applicable by an educator or team of educators with parent, guardian, and student input as appropriate, or may be specified in a student's IEP or Section 504 plan. Remember, in other words, designated supports are available to all students. It's educator recommendation. And the other caution we just want to put with that is don't just mass assign designated supports. We want to be very thoughtful and deliberate. If it's something that we use instructionally, you'll want to go over and assign it to the students if it might help them. Accommodations are permitted for an eligible student when the resources are specified in the student's IEP or Section 504 plan, and if the student has a special education or 504 plan setting of yes in TOMS. And that's to Stephen's point, making sure that it is yes in CalPADS. Adding accommodations for testing can be done in batch or one by one. And so this is always the tricky one right here. You're going to want to work really closely with your special education staff to obtain the information that you need with accommodations for your students. And so there are a lot of special education systems that it automatically extracts that information, and it's nice and neat to go over and upload into TOMS. Um, but some of them, you might have to do a little bit of cleaning up and then paste it into the upload template, and then that gets uploaded into the system. It's honestly whatever works locally for you. You can go over and add them one by one, or you can go over and use that batch upload. Hopefully, you're getting that information automatically from SACE and just pasting it in there. So just remember that test settings should be configured at least 4 hours prior to testing to allow the system to update and make the setting available to the student. So it's not going to be an automatic thing. I upload it, boom, 5 minutes later, the student's going to see it on their end. Give it some time to go over. Give it at least 4 hours. Directions for these processes can be found in the TOMS user guide on the Coordinator How-To Hub and under TOMS resources, all available on the CAASPP and ELPAC website. And once again, a link has been provided in your resource guide. Let's talk briefly about the reports that are available within TOMS. You heard me mention a couple of them briefly, but there's a ton of them and they're really great. Your TOMS at a glance dashboard displays data that can assist you in administering the CAASPP and ELPAC. And that includes student demographics, student counts, LEA test windows, once they're established, material orders, test completion rates, and the at a glance dashboard gives you a real big picture of your LEA. And that's when you first log into TOMS, you'll see it right away. Once you're inside of TOMS, though, the Reports tab provides access to all TOMS reports at both the LEA and site levels. Test Settings Report. This is the first report we're going to talk about. It lists students and their assigned embedded and non-embedded resources. If you've already uploaded all of your accommodations and designated supports, let's say a couple of days later, you go in, you download that report, nothing is there. Something happened with that upload. So maybe we didn't click upload or something, but it'll tell you who has resources on there. The test assignments report, that's going to list the test assignments for your students in your LEA. It's a really great report. If you haven't been in that one yet, it's a great one just to download. And usually you'll see a Y for yes, it's been assigned, or an N, which means no, it's not assigned. But you'll see all of the assessments in that one big spreadsheet: Smarter Balanced English Language Arts, Smarter Balanced Math, California Alternate Assessments, Science Tests, so on and so forth. You'll get it in that one-stop shop. If it's not making sense, then go back and look and just make sure that you need to go over and add those test assignments. User list report, that's the one that I use. I go in, I download the CAASPP users or ELPAC users, and it'll download for you in one spreadsheet. The new ELPAC students meeting reclassification criterion report. That is a way cool brand new report. So that one is on the ELPAC side of the house. You log in, you click on that report. That's going to give you all of your students who are eligible to potentially reclassify. In other words, they were a level 4 on ELPAC summative last year, or they were a level 3 on alternate ELPAC. Gives it to you nice and neat. They're still, the only reason why they would end up on that report is they met criterion 1, but they're still an English learner inside of CalPADS. The STARS and Appeals Report. STARS stands for Security and Test Administration Incident Reporting System. STARS is a starting point for coordinators to report a test security incident or other testing issue that interferes with the administration and completion of the assessment. So details STARS appeals cases, including incident and appeal information. And you're going to hear more about STARS in the February webinar. There's also a security forms and remote administration status report. What does that mean? If your users in your system have signed the affidavits, then they're going to appear on there. If they haven't signed it yet, it's going to say no, they haven't signed it yet. And it'll actually give you the time that they signed it. So really good report to go in and look and say, oh my gosh, we're not all signed yet with our security affidavits yet. And then they're not going to be able to administer summative at the end of the year. So just make sure that that is complete. You can get that through those reports. You're also going to have the student score data file, provide student scores and detailed testing information from the previous year. You're going to have a student demographic report. It verifies the CalPADS data sent to TOMS, and that includes demographic records for each enrolled student. Eligibility report is in the CAASPP system as well. It shows which high school students have completed the California Science Test and California Alternate Assessment for science tests. And that's available at the LEA or at the school level. You're also going to see the eligibility reports for ELPAC. It shows which students must take the ELPAC or the alternate ELPAC. In other words, they're an English learner inside of CalPADS. Using these reports can ensure the right students are scheduled and no one is missed, and that testing can run smoothly. After requesting a report in TOMS, users will receive an email notification letting them know that, hey, it's ready to download. Within TOMS, there are many tools to help you perform your job. The more familiar and comfortable you are using TOMS, the better. TOMS is an essential component in the administration of CAASPP and ELPAC. So once again, what is TOMS? As we mentioned previously, TOMS is where you will upload users, test assignments, test settings. It's the one-stop shop. There's links to other areas within the CAASPP system, like the Test Administrator Interface, the DEI or the Data Entry Interface, or the Teacher Hand Scoring System or THSS. So lots of acronyms here. You can get links from TOMS. If you want to learn more, then when in TOMS, you can try this. Select the question mark icon when it appears, and a contextual help box will pop up with some pertinent information about that particular topic. Take some time to familiar yourself with TOMS and all it has to offer. And with that, we're going to get into test schedule with Stephen.
Thank you, Joe. All right, so let's talk about the importance of a test schedule. You'll work with test site coordinators as well as site and LEA administrators to set the testing window for your LEA. Windows must be set in TOMS by December 1st. That's right around the corner. The selected testing window for the Smarter Balance CAAs for ELA and mathematics, the CAST, the CAST, and the CSA must not begin until the day of completion of 66% of the school's annual instructional days. The CAA for science window is set automatically, as the embedded performance tasks, or PTs, may be administered in any order between mid-September and the end of the instructional calendar, or June 30th, whichever comes first. The CAA for science now includes 3 embedded PTs, performance tasks, with 15 questions each, instead of 4 PTs with 10 questions each. Embedded performance tasks should be administered throughout the school year after students have received related instruction. CAS testing may continue up to and including the last day of school, or June 30th, whichever comes first. Summative ELPAC and summative alternate ELPAC testing has a set schedule yearly from the 1st of February through May 31st. That may change from year to year if that 1st and 31st fall on a weekend. For LEAs with certified non-public schools or schools with multiple directs, separate test administration windows may be established to accommodate each MPS or track schedule. The selected testing window must include at least 25 consecutive instructional days. A short video on setting up the test administration window is available on the CAASPP and ELPAC TOMS resources webpage. If a testing window is not selected by December 1st, the LEA coordinator must call your success agent, your assigned success agent. Their contact information is located on the success agent lookup webpage, and you can use them to assist you with setting up that testing window and assigning school sites. Additional information about setting test windows is located in that TOMS user guide. Great. The assessment timeline, it gives you the full picture of California's assessment system and when the different exams take place. Because the ELPAC window overlaps with the English Language Arts Literacy, ELA, Mathematics, and Science windows, coordination is key. For summative ELPAC and summative alternate ELPAC testing, some LEAs may test early in the window to avoid conflicts with scheduled CAS testing, while others may wait and schedule ELPAC testing during CASP to minimize loss of instructional time. It's also important to prioritize testing students who are transitioning to new school levels, such as middle school or high school, earlier in the window. That ensures that results are returned before the end of the year. You want to be able to consider for reclassifications those students who may be eligible for reclassification. For students in grades K through 2, testing can be scheduled later in the window, giving them more time to acquire English while also avoiding conflicts with CASP testing. So we have some homework for you. Check in with your site leadership as well as your ELPAC coordinator to coordinate testing schedules across programs. It is important to note that the summative ELPAC and summative alternate ELPAC window doesn't close until May 31st. So if a new English learner or EL student enrolls at any point in the window or is identified as an EL, based on the initial alternate ELPAC, they must be assessed within that summative window. It will be important you have a plan in place for these students who enter your district after the Summit of ELPAC has started, and that someone is monitoring the data. If a student enrolls after February who needs to be tested with the initial ELPAC, they must be tested ASAP within the 30-day window requirement. If the initial LPAC results in an EL status, you must ensure that they are also administered the summative LPAC by the May 31st deadline, regardless of whether the bulk of your students already completed their summative LPAC testing for the year. All right. There are three key terms that you need to remember when it comes to scheduling CAS testing: available testing windows, test administration windows, and testing schedules. Sometimes these terms are used interchangeably, so I wanted to spend some time talking about each and how they relate to each other. The available testing window, or statewide testing window, is the longest period of the three. The available testing window is set through the CAASPP regulations, and it's based on the percentage of completed instructional days. Per the regulations, the available testing window shall begin on the day on which 66% of the school's annual instructional days have been completed, but no earlier than the second Tuesday in January of each school year, and may continue up to and including the last day of instruction for the year, but no later than June 30th for most CAASPP tests. As a reminder, the CAA for Science is an exception and is available for testing throughout the school year starting in September. Within the available testing window, LEAs select test administration windows. Depending on school calendars and other circumstances within the LEA, LEAs may select up to 6 test administration windows within the available testing window. CAS coordinators will enter these windows into TOMS, identifying the dates the summative CAS test will be available to schools within the LEA. Each of your school sites will establish a test schedule that falls within the LEA's test administration window. Unlike the test administration windows, these are not loaded into the TOM system. These are just kept locally. Downtime. Downtime is going to be important because downtime and maintenance days are scheduled throughout the school year. The plan system downtime webpage features a calendar with the scheduled downtime and maintenance dates, and the affected components of the system are listed as well. As an LEA coordinator, you're encouraged to notify your staff about the scheduled downtime and maintenance dates and to plan around those dates when you're preparing those testing schedules. It's a best practice to upload users directly after the summer TOMS user rollover, and you'll need to establish an ongoing process to monitor that your users are up to date as you approach and enter the testing season. Also, student settings do not carry over from year to year. You must ensure that designated supports and accommodations are appropriately assigned. And before we wrap up, here's a helpful resource to keep you updated. The California Department of Education's Assessment Spotlight is a regular email for kindergarten through grade 12 educators, including testing coordinators, that reports on current and upcoming activities related to statewide testing, including downtimes. And you'll want to join that email list by simply sending a blank message using the link provided in your resource guide. Okay, so what can you use for training? ETS is a great video tutorial that walks through how to start a test from beginning to end. And this is a comprehensive resource available to the CAASPP and ELPAC on the CAASPP and ELPAC website. In addition, there's also a CAASPP test administrator slide deck from the CDE that you can use to support your local training. And I highly recommend using both the video and the slide deck with your team so they understand how to use the TA interface and how to troubleshoot effectively. Your resource guide includes several questions for you to consider when developing your training. And let's walk through them now. What topics will you need to cover? First and foremost, you'll want to identify the topics of the training and the audience for those topics. Try not to assume that all your interest holders are equal in their information needs. Experienced site coordinators will need much less information than new site coordinators. Does school type matter? We urge you to consider school types in developing your training. Staff at high schools may need a slightly different training than elementary or middle school staff, especially for the CAST. The take-home message here is for you to think about ways to tailor the training so that your interest holders get what they need and that the group isn't too large where it's overwhelming for you or the interest holders. Consider how to incorporate remote testing requirements and processes into the training plan as well. As the LEA coordinator, one of your key responsibilities is to provide local trainings to your site coordinators. In some LEAs, site coordinators then train their local staff, while in others, the LEA coordinator leads all of the trainings. The approach depends on the needs and structure of your LEA. During the fall, you should identify dates and locations for trainings and notify site coordinators and other staff as early as possible. We'll be talking about the administration and scoring trainings, or AST, in Moodle for ELPAC in a few slides. And these trainings are also local and required part of preparing staff. For CAASPP, conduct training for test site coordinators and confirm that test site coordinators conduct training for test administrators, test examiners, and other site staff with access to the test or testing materials. Please note that the test examiner tutorials in CAASPP-ELPAC Moodle training site are mandatory to be qualified to administer the CAAs. Those alternate assessments have mandatory training in Moodle. For the administration of the general CAASPP assessments, the use of the TA tutorial on the CAASPP and ELPAC website is optional. Use those existing training materials whenever possible. Add information specific to your LEA as needed to ensure that test site coordinators have resources and instructions for site staff to complete their test security affidavits. You'd want to confirm that those test site coordinators have conducted the required site trainings and that the test security affidavits have been completed as TOMS accounts are established for TAs and TAEs at each site, those test administrators and examiners at each site. As you're developing training materials for test site coordinators, test administrators, and test examiners, use those existing training materials whenever possible. Registration information for state-sponsored trainings is located on the CAASPP and ELPAC upcoming and on-demand trainings webpage. Members of your local assessment network may also have training materials available. A list of RAN members, Regional Assessment Network members, by region is located on the CDE RAN webpage. It's also important to consider the mode of delivery for the training material. Are there instances where a virtual meeting platform such as Zoom, Google Meet, Teams might be useful versus an in-person training? Think about existing opportunities where your interest holder groups are already engaged and see if you can add on to those existing opportunities. All right, so now we're on to ELPAC, and let's discuss test examiner training and calibration for the Summit of ELPAC. Schedule local training dates and communicate them to your test site coordinators. You're going to use local LEA calendars and schedules to ensure that training dates are feasible for test site coordinators, TAs, and TEs. Consider whether trainings will be spread throughout the year or consolidated, and whether new and experienced coordinators will receive the same training. Calibration is required only for those who administer and score the speaking domain. Training is required for all TEs, test examiners, who administer the other three domains, and it can be completed individually or in groups using the administration videos provided for those domains. All test examiners need to know how to administer the test properly and consistently. That includes how to assess the test, access the test, how to ensure the accommodations and supports are correct, and how to enter the scores into the system. As a reminder, training materials for Summit of ELPAC are in Moodle. Remember that enrollment keys are needed to access Moodle, and those keys give access to the different types of training available for test examiners. Also note that Moodle is where the LEA certification course is completed, and that's required for you to complete. It will be important to train test examiners on how to use the testing platform. Also train staff on any district-specific processes for ensuring the testing is completed and scored for each of your EL students. There's a separate training in Moodle for the alternate ELPAC test examiners. Here's some key questions and example considerations to guide the development of your training plan and provide direction for your local training sessions. On training content, what specific information needs to be included in the training sessions? For target audience, who needs to participate in the training? Does everyone require the same information, or should different groups receive tailored content? For specialized training, is there a need for a separate training session for the CAAs, the California Alternate Assessments? Who in your district will collaborate with the special education team to help train on the CAAs? For training delivery, what is the most effective method for delivering the training? For example, in person, online, hybrid. How will you incorporate information about remote testing into the training sessions? For leveraging existing opportunities, are there current training opportunities where you can add on to those training opportunities? These points will help ensure that your training plan is comprehensive and meets the needs of your staff. Additionally, start sharing the relevant dates with your staff. Before we jump into your questions, we have one last thing to cover, your homework. Don't worry, it's not just busy work. The assignment is designed to help you take the next steps and apply what you've learned. Okay, we want you to do several things. First, download the coordinator checklist if you haven't already. These documents are extremely helpful to new coordinators. It's your best friend, honestly, when you're getting work done. Next, determine who is responsible for uploading users, test assignments, and supports and accommodations at your LEA. And lastly, coordinate CAASPP and ELPAC testing days at your LEA to avoid testing schedule conflicts and testing fatigue for students. Oftentimes, you'll have other testing calendars. You want to have a comprehensive master calendar that includes AP testing at high schools and others. All right, so now we will spend the next part of this training answering your questions. Let's start with questions that have already come in. Please send in your additional questions by entering them into the Q&A box.
There have been a lot of questions coming through right here, Stephen. So a few of them that were coming through, just wanted to hit really quick, were the credentialing. So a lot of great questions about getting accessibilities from a lot of us use SACE. And so just wanted to clarify with that one. So multiple ways to get test settings in. You can either do one by one inside of Tom's, or you could do the batch upload. And so here's the key, because some people want to use the API, that's that automatic sync that happens at night with SACE. You can use that, but our colleagues at the California Department of Education shared this tip with us that before we turn on our API, before we use it, we still need to do that initial first batch upload into Tom's from SACE. That's the manual one. We're going to batch upload. And then after that, then the API will just, change whatever is new coming in nightly. So we still have to do that main upload first if you're going to do the first upload. The other part to that was we had a question about credentialing. And so if you generate a credential on the CAASPP side of the house, you do not need to generate another one for the ELPAC. So if you generate a new one on the ELPAC side of the house, it's going to overwrite, essentially break your credential that you generated on the CAASPP side of the house. So just make sure you're only generating one. Make sure everybody's communicating openly in your organization where it's, hey, I'm the one that just generated this one credential right here. Nobody else needs to generate one. They're good for 12 months. And then after 12 months, you'll need to regenerate a new one and then add that to your student information system. So student score reports can go through. You can add it to SACE if you want to use that automatic sync. So it's completely up to you, but only one person is going to generate those credentials, and it only needs to be in one platform.
Had you heard about batch load issues with Macs, Joe? I responded one of those while you were talking.
Yeah, I don't think it's just a Mac thing. If we're talking about uploading users, is that what we're talking about?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a glitch that's happening right now, and it's happening with everybody. And if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna share my screen. Let me see if I'm talented enough to do that. Let's see. There we go. Can you guys see my screen? You should see Tom's right here. And so in Tom's, when we want to go over and upload, you're going to go to users and you're going to go to upload and you can download the template. And so the wacky
No, I
thing,
can't see it. I don't know if others can.
oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I can't see it, Joe.
Okay, sorry. And I'm over here like, wow, you guys should see this. This is the greatest thing, right?
I
Okay,
saw
perfect.
some hands going up, so I thought, or thumbs up, so I thought it was
Okay,
working, but
okay, perfect. How about this one? Can you guys see
yeah,
this?
I can see that now.
All
Thank
right.
you, Joe.
Okay, perfect. So let's imagine that I had gone to users and then I went to upload. And then when you download the template, it is going to, come on, don't save. Let me do that one more time. Of course, it's not going to, of course, it's going to be fussy with me right now. Don't do that right now. Okay, if I can't do it here. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, so let's imagine. Let's imagine that. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. Here we go. The magic of Excel right here. Okay, so it just opened up. And so here's one of the issues that's happening with the upload is you need the first name, last name, and all of this really lives in that one report, that user list report, and it matches beautifully here. CDS code, everything. The problem is on admin year, if I try to add the admin year, notice it still says 24-25. It does not work. And so it's really a macros issue. And so the workaround for this is notice I have the template open right now. If I go to File, Save As, and you're going to save it as whatever you want, upload, whatever, and I actually misspelled it. That's okay. You're going to save as. Once you save it as, here's the biggest key. You got to close it. And when you do that, you're actually going to reopen it. Here's the one that I misspelled. You're going to enable the content. And now, when you hit it, here's 25-26. Now it'll magically work. So you've got to download it, save it as, close it, reopen it, and then you just trick your computer. My understanding is there is a fix and it'll be in January, but that should fix it. It's not just a Mac thing, it's everybody. So anyways, that was my quick little fix right there. And I know we're running out of time, so I'm gonna turn it back over to you guys.
Uh,
Do you want one of us to share, Paul?
yes, please. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for submitting, your questions. And I know that there were a few that we were, unable to answer, but if you could please reach out to CDE or your success agents, yeah, that would be very helpful. And, we just want to honor everybody's time. So that's why we're wrapping it up. But thank you, Joe and Stephen. Alrighty. So before we let you go, we'd like to promote a few upcoming training opportunities. December 11th, we have a part 2 to this particular. Oh, no worries.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, preparing for testing part 2, and that's December 11th. And then January 15th, we have the topic support during testing. And then in February 19th, we're going to discuss completion tracking and security. Also, we want to call some attention to the coffee sessions, and these are virtual sessions hosted by CDE and ETS, and they're great opportunities to ask questions and get answers about assessments, trainings, and other resources. And they're held mostly monthly for most of the year, and I believe the next one is scheduled for December 9th and January 13th. And lastly, I want to call out ETS has a new training series called Connect for Success, and this is a great opportunity to connect with your success agent. So again, take your questions. They will show you, how to navigate certain platforms. They'll give you some tips and what tasks are required. So the links are in your resource guide. Alrighty, and if you haven't already, we would like for you to sign up for the Assessment Spotlight emails, and you'll find subscription instructions in the resource guide. Also, you can follow the CDE on X at CDE Assessments, and you can also connect with CDE on Instagram, and you'll see the link in your resource guide as well. And that brings us to the end. We hope that this training was very helpful and timely as well. And as always, we want to let you know that you're not alone. There are a lot of resources out there to support you. Networks of coordinators in similar roles, your success agents, and you always have staff at CDE ready for to answer any of your questions. We also have a quick post-evaluation survey. If you could please give us a couple of minutes, we appreciate the feedback. And with that, on behalf of CDE, our trainers, Stephen Bartlett and Joe Valero, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you have a great afternoon and happy holidays as well. We'll see you in December. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Perfect timing. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank
All right.